Robert Walmsley came to the city and had a big fight. He won the fight and got rich and famous. But the city also changed him. The city gave him what he wanted but made him like everyone else. It changed the way he dressed, acted, and lived. He became like other rich city people who can sometimes be rude and think they are better than others. A small town in the countryside was proud of Robert. 6 years ago, this town laughed at Robert when he left the farm to live in the big city. But after 6 years, everyone knew his name. He was part of big court cases, parties, car accidents, and fancy dances. Tailors stopped him in the street to see his nice clothes. Important people were happy to know him and used his name. Robert's biggest success was when he married Alicia Vanderpool. She was like a high, snowy mountain, very special and hard to reach. She was from a very old and important family. Many people tried to be as good as her but could not. She did not do things that were silly or common. She was calm, proud, and did not care for things like dogs or fountains. This was the great success Robert achieved. Even if it was hard sometimes, he always looked happy and strong. He knew he was lucky, even if he sometimes felt cold inside like he had ice in his heart. After a short trip abroad for their wedding, the couple came back and made a splash in the best society. They had parties at their big old red brick house in an old, once great neighborhood. Robert Walmsley was proud of his wife. Even when he greeted guests, he held tightly to his walking stick and thermometer. One day, Alicia found a letter from Robert's mother. It was a simple letter, full of love and news about the farm. It talked about the pig and the new red calf and asked how Robert was doing. It was a letter from home, full of stories about bees, turnips, fresh eggs, and how things were going on the farm. "Why have I not seen your mother's letters?" asked Alicia. Her voice always sounded fancy, like she came from a rich and important place. "Your mother," continued Alicia, "invites us to visit the farm. I have never seen a farm. We will go there for a week or two, Robert." "We will," said Robert, in a very serious and important way. "I did not show you the invitation because I thought you would not want to go. I am happy you want to go. I will write to her myself," said Alicia, a little excited. "Felice will pack my bags right away. 7 bags should be enough. Does your mother have many parties?" Robert stood up and said they should not take so many bags. He tried to explain what a farm is like. His own words sounded strange to him. He had forgotten how much the city had changed him. A week later, they arrived at the small country train station, 5 hours from the city. A smiling, loud, and joking young man driving a mule wagon called out to Robert in a teasing way. "Hello, Mr. Walmsley. Found your way back at last. Have you? Sorry I couldn't bring the car for you, but Dad's using it to plow the 10-acre clover field today. I guess you'll excuse me for not wearing a suit to meet you. It's not 6 o'clock yet, you know." "I'm glad to see you, Tom," said Robert, shaking his brother's hand. "Yes, I found my way back at last. You've got a right to say at last. It's been over 2 years since I was here. But I'll come back more often now, my boy." Alicia, cool in the summer heat like an ice queen, dressed in a light dress with a lace umbrella, came around the corner of the station. Tom, who was feeling confident, suddenly felt shy. He mostly stared at her, wearing his blue jeans, and on the way home, he only talked to the mule about what he was thinking. They drove home. The low sun shone brightly on the lucky fields of wheat. The cities were far away. The road curled around the woods, valleys, and hills like a ribbon dropped by summer. The wind followed like a happy colt behind the sun's horses. Soon they saw the farmhouse, gray among the trees. They saw the long lane with walnut trees on each side running from the road to the house. They smelled the wild roses and the cool, damp willows by the creek. Then all the voices of nature began to speak to Robert Walmsley. From the dark woods, they came softly. They chirped and buzzed from the dry grass. They sang from the creek. They floated up in clear notes from the meadows. The whippoorwills joined in as they flew after insects in the air. Slow cowbells added their sound, and this is what they all said. "You've found your way back at last, have you?" The old voices of the country spoke to him. Leaves and flowers talked to him in the familiar words of his youth. The things like stones and fences, gates and fields, roofs and turns in the road spoke to him too and changed him. The country smiled at him, and he felt its breath, and his heart was pulled back to his old love. The city was far away. This feeling of the countryside then took hold of Robert Walmsley. He noticed something strange. Alicia, sitting next to him, suddenly seemed like a stranger. She did not belong to this part of his life. Never before had she seemed so far away, so quiet and high, so unreal. Yet, he had never admired her more than when she sat there by him in the old wagon, not fitting in with his mood or the country life at all. That night, after greetings and dinner, the whole family, including Buff, the yellow dog, spread out on the front porch. Alicia, not proud but silent, sat in the shadow in a beautiful pale gray dress. Robert's mother happily talked to her about marmalade and back pain. Tom sat on the top step, sisters Millie and Pam on the lowest step catching lightning bugs. Mother had the willow rocking chair. Father sat in the big armchair with one arm broken. Buff lay in the middle of the porch in everyone's way. The evening's quiet magic brought back strong memories for Robert. A countryside madness took over his heart. The city felt very far away. Father sat without his pipe, uncomfortable in his heavy boots, being very polite. Robert shouted, "No, you don't." He fetched the pipe and lit it. He pulled off the old man's boots. The last one slipped suddenly, and Mr. Robert Walmsley from Washington Square fell off the porch backward with Buff on top of him, howling loudly. Tom laughed sarcastically. Robert tore off his coat and vest and threw them into a lilac bush. "Come out here, you country boy," he cried to Tom, "and I'll teach you a lesson. I think you called me a city boy earlier. Come on and show what you can do." Tom understood the challenge and happily accepted it. 3 times they wrestled on the grass, side holds, just like wrestlers, and twice Tom had to eat grass at the hands of the well-known lawyer. Messy, panting, both still bragging about how strong they were, they stumbled back to the porch. Millie made a cheeky comment about her city brother. In an instant, Robert grabbed a nasty katydid and chased her with it. Screaming loudly, she ran up the lane, chased by the determined Robert. After running a quarter of a mile, they returned, she full of apologies to the victorious city boy. The countryside madness had fully taken over him. "I can take on all of you slow country folks," he bragged loudly. "Bring on your bulldogs, your farm workers, and your log rollers." He did flips on the grass that made Tom laugh with envy. Then, with a loud shout, he ran to the back and brought back Uncle Ike, an old black man who worked for the family, with his banjo. He spread sand on the porch and danced, chicken in the bread tray, and did amazing dances for half an hour longer. He did incredibly wild and noisy things. He sang, he told stories that made everyone laugh loudly except one. He acted like a silly country boy. He was crazy with the excitement of his old life in his veins. He became so wild that once his mother gently tried to stop him. Then Alicia moved like she was about to speak, but she did not. Through it all she sat still, a slim, white figure in the dusk that no one could understand. After a while, she asked if she could go to her room, saying she was tired. On her way, she passed Robert. He was standing in the door, looking silly with messy hair, a red face, and clothes all mixed up. No sign of the perfect Robert Walmsley, the popular club member. He was doing a magic trick with some household items, and the family, now fully on his side, was watching him with admiring eyes. As Alicia passed, Robert suddenly remembered she was there. Without looking at him, she went upstairs. After that, the fun got quieter. An hour passed in talking, and then Robert went up too. She was standing by the window when he entered their room. She was still dressed as she was on the porch. Outside and pressing against the window was a big apple tree, full of blossoms. Robert sighed and went near the window. He was ready to face what was coming. He felt like a foolish country boy. He knew what a Vanderpool would think. He had acted silly, and now the calm, cold, white Alicia would judge him. He had lost all the smooth, cool behavior the city had given him as soon as he felt the country breeze. He waited for her to tell him what he had done wrong. "Robert," said Alicia's calm, cool voice, "I thought I married a gentleman." Yes, he knew this was coming. And yet, as she spoke, Robert was looking at a branch of the apple tree he used to climb out of that very window. He thought he could still do it. He wondered how many blossoms were on the tree, millions? But here was someone speaking again. "I thought I married a gentleman," she continued. But why was she standing so close to him? "But I find that I have married." Was this really Alicia talking? Something better. "A man, Bob dear, kiss me, won't you?" The city was far away.